Hello there. I'm Steve Gladys, and I'm an executive coach, also on the faculty at George Mason University. I'm here today to chat with you about the whole idea of executive coaching for teams. For years, I have coached both individual clients as well as teams. And I have found a piece of research that I think, while it's been around for a while, hasn't been used as widely as I think it should be, and is now sort of coming to the fore. I discovered it recently, doing some research, and over the past year have started to use it with my own teams, senior executive teams. These are teams, sort of very senior teams within larger leadership context. So while an executive, for example, a CEO may have 14 or 15 people in the leadership team, maybe only 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 are really the strategic team that makes all the decisions, assuming that the CEO wants that kind of a team to help him make decisions. Some CEOs don't want that. And if you're like that, then this isn't really for you. I want to share my screen with you and walk through some slides that may be of value in understanding this. Let me just click that on right now, and we'll get started. Here we go. First of all, you might say to yourself, well, why do we even need this stuff? It's because high-performing teams produce a lot, and they produce a lot better than individual CEOs. At the very senior level, these teams also provide a sustainable future for the team, succession planning, if you will. The longer these teams have been in together, the better they tend to do. There was actually a study done of NBA teams that's extrapolated to support this theory, but the longer these NBA teams had been together, the better they did statistically in a significant way. The reality is only 1 out of 5 teams is high performing right at the current state based on research. Now, most of this research is done by Hackman and Weidman out of Harvard. So if you want to look up there, it's Richard Hackman and Ruth Weidman. You can get the details on this stuff, but this is what most of it's based on. And there is a significant difference between teams and groups. So if you think of a team, or better yet, a group. If you think of a group, think of a golf team where the scores are all added up, and based on the sum of the scores, you get a winning team and a losing team by the lowest scores. Basketball teams, now, so in a golf team, it matters to the team score what you get, but on a stroke by stroke basis, you really don't need anybody else intervening there. So the goals are not interdependent. They're related but not interdependent, and they sort of report up to a general score in silos. And this is very different than teams that actually works together in an integrated way, like basketball teams. I was a basketball player in high school, and I remember quite clearly that if I blew a pass, the team was set back by that, or somebody blew an easy shot, because the goals there are more interrelated, and much more integrated. There are a lot of companies out there that have teams, and there are a few companies out there, I should say, that have teams. A lot of companies have groups. So if you have a bunch of silos reporting up that really aren't independent, you have really a group organization versus a team organization. And I think it's good to know the difference. The teams are interdependent. My goal affects your goal. We're purpose driven. We have a clear focus where we're headed, and we're purpose driven, and we're focused on that goal. Team coaching is a subset of executive coaching. And I'll go through what it involves in just a bit, but it's more complex because it's interrelated, but because it's interrelated and integrated, it makes a bigger difference. It focuses both on the leader, the team, and also the process and impact that team has. The key to great executive team coaching and great functioning teams is that they exist in a safe environment, and one that's full of trust, where people have character, So think of it as a triangle. People have character, they're competent, and they care. And this trust triangle is what you have to have established before a group can actually go forward. In fact, if I sense in my initial interviews with clients that they don't have this, I tell them what they have to do to get prepared for team coaching. It's almost like a house. You know, you're going to sell a house. The real estate agent comes in, looks at the house and says, hey, it's a great house, but you're going to have this fixed, that you're going to have to have this fixed, that fixed, and so forth before we can even put it on the market. Otherwise, you're not going to get nearly as much money for it as you would like. Same thing with coaching. If it's not ready, you know, sure, financially, it would be okay for a guy like me to take you on, but I don't need it, and I'm more interested in success than I am in making a profit. So I would say no to companies, and have said no to companies that weren't ready for it. And finally, understand that this work is based on decades of research out of Harvard, and literally hundreds of teams have been in many different verticals have been tested. There's a 6-step process in this whole high-performing team coaching, and we're going to kind of go through them relatively quickly. But if you need more information, I'm happy to chat with you on the phone. If you're a coach, I'm happy to tell you what I do. I think this is that important. First is you need to do a team assessment. We're going to talk about what that assessment looks like and the extent of it. Secondly, team design, how you actually design the team, how it's and then what's called the team launch, how you actually get the team ready to go. And teams that have been established already but have new members or haven't really been energized for years, you do what's called a relaunch, and we'll discuss about how we do that. Talk about individual coaching as a part of this whole thing, ongoing team coaching necessary to keep this, and what the cadence of that might look like, and then finally the whole idea of team performance. So let's move right into team assessment. Evaluating the team's readiness and establishing sort of a starting point is really critical to the process. So what we do typically is we'll do interviews of the team members and all the stakeholders, not just the team members themselves, but maybe the stakeholders. So for example, if there's a board of directors, we might pick 2 or 3 people, maybe 4 people on the executive board. So let's say there's 25 people on the board of directors. We might pick the chairman and a couple of other folks, the vice chair, the past chair, that kind of thing. Interview them about how well the team is doing, what kind of issues they're having with leadership, and so forth. We do anonymous feedback, even within the company itself. Also with vendors, where it's appropriate to see how the team is, operating, to see what they're good at, what they're not so good at, what they need work on, and we just ask oftentimes just general questions: what's working well with this team? What's not working well that needs to be improved? Is there anything else you want to tell me? Questions like that. These aren't really huge intellectual questions. As people raise issues, we interview them more in depth on those, but they sort of evolve. And we'll change the questions as they evolve as we go along. We look at what the expectations are, what the culture are, what the reward systems might be. We'll ask people about their environment. Is it safe? Is it not safe? Who really makes the decisions? What do you how well are your goals defined for you, and things like that, to get a sense of the overall management of the team and its impact in the organization. We'll then talk about team strengths and challenges. And oftentimes I do this by sending out a questionnaire to the team members. So let's say there's 5 people on the executive team. I'll usually send out a questionnaire to each one of them saying, when it comes to the senior executive team, the most senior group here, the one you're in, what things are working well with this team, not the company, with this team, what things are not working well that need to be either you need more or less, more things, more activity on, or less activity you want to stop or start, and is there anything else you want to tell me? I'm always amazed at what I find out with that very simple survey. Even among 5 or 6 people, there's always a trend. I remember one organization said in their survey, geez, we don't meet enough. The CEO has these meetings scheduled and turns us away from them. And after 3 months, I can already see a tendency in them wanting to do the same thing with our meetings. And So at some point, probably in the near future, if we get a rescheduling again, I'm going to ask the CEO and the team whether or not they're really serious about this, because you begin to see trends, and that's useful to know. There are Hackman and Wegman rather, have noted that there are 6 conditions that make great teams, and this is a slide that I think is probably arguably the most important slide in this deck. There are 3 essential conditions they found, and 3 enabling conditions, which if you have all these, in one team, you're probably going to have a high-functioning team. So let me go through them with you quickly. First of all, you need what's called a real team. Or people think, what do you mean they need a real team? Well, you need a team that is actually well-defined. Is there a senior leadership team that is very well-defined, and that it's a group of people who the CEO is willing to share decision-making with, which means that unlike somewhere CEOs where the CEO is the hub and he reaches out to people for information, this is more of an integrated hub. That's a single point of failure. If the CEO starts going off the track with you, the thing begins to fall apart. Whereas in a more integrated whole, somebody has a bad day or a bad week, a CEO or any member of the team kind of carries that person. Again, it's like a built-in succession plan. It's an organism more like the internet and less like a landline. So real teams, are there clear boundaries? Do people know what their swim lanes are? Do we have defined membership? Are there interdependent goals? And the best companies have these interdependent goals. What I do affects what you do. And when we have a meeting, we walk out of that meeting, we all agree that we as a team agreed on this, even if you didn't agree with it. So there's none of this, well, I would have, sidebars with people that saying, well, I would have done this, but the CEO and the COO over there just, they force us into it. There's none of that. If you have that, you've got to get rid of those people off of your team, because you can't have a team that operates in a fragmented way if you're going to be successful. So a real team, it might sound ridiculous, but a lot of times when you ask people, who is a strategic team that actually makes the decision in your company, if you ask 20 people, you'll get 15 different answers. So the real team, the right people, team members, the right knowledge, competencies, skills, abilities to achieve the goals. Sometimes you don't have the right people on the team. You're actually lacking, for example, somebody that maybe it's somebody technical, or maybe it's somebody strategic that has a skill that you need to make this team go forward. Until you have the right team, it's hard for you to play a ball game. Let's to use that analogy. And the last thing in these essential ones, these 3 essential, is compelling direction or purpose that gives the whole team a sense of urgency, meaning, and impact to its stakeholders. In other words, you want people who have a burning purpose. You want the right team of people, the right people, and the right kind of purpose to generate this thing. These are essential. These are the 3 essential, and then just below them are 3 enabling conditions. Those enabling conditions are a solid team structure. These are clear roles and responsibilities, a working agreement, and behaviors that are defined. In other words, what we do when we talk about solid structure is you actually construct what's called a team charter, and that team charter is a charter that's focused on this team, the senior team, and not on the company, which confuses some people. But once you get people to realize that the senior team has its own charter, it makes a huge difference. A solid team structure formulated by having a charter, and that charter has things like, what's the mission statement, what's the vision, what's the behaviors we expect of each other, how are we going to enforce those behaviors, what do we do if people don't do what they say they're going to do, and so forth and so on. We've just published an article in the Talent Development magazine on outlining a lot of this stuff, and we can make that available to you if you'll let me know. The second area in these 3 enablers are supportive organizational structure. In other words, are there adequate sources, talent, and money? Sometimes you have a great team, but you don't have the amount of revenue or investment that you need to move the company along. So if you have a poorly financed endeavor, even if you have the right people, you're not going to be able to take it much further because you can't expand. So low capitalization, things like that affect teams. And finally, do you have a competent team coaching? An outside party, a third party coach is essential according to this research, and a little self-serving for guys like me, but the reality is people never take time to think about or act on this kind of stuff unless they're working with a coach. I can just assure you of that. People are so heads down working on their job day in and day out. They really don't spend a lot of time that they should thinking about leadership, thinking about the most important thing that they have, that they bring to this entire organization of people, which is leading the team forward strategically. That slide, I think, is the most important slide that we have here. So let's talk about the team launch a little bit. How do you launch a team? How do you develop or refresh a mission, a vision, and so forth? What we typically do is do an offsite. We usually spend anywhere from 4 to 6 hours, sometimes more. We tend to get it out of the building if we can. We've done them inside buildings. The problem with that is that on breaks or whenever there's a moment, people just jump on their cell phones. It's better for them to be where they can't be reached easily, quite frankly. We typically we ask questions about what should the teams, this executive team, the senior executive team, what should the team's mission statement be? And it's much different than the companies. For example, many times we find when we get people to understand this, they'll finally say, well, our mission really is to grow leaders in the company, to lead the team strategically, to enforce the culture and things like that. That's the kind of thing that this team does. That's different than a general corporate vision or values thing. When we look at values of the team, what values do you want to have on this team? And we look at behaviors. That's a big one. We look at behaviors, and I tell you a story about one case where everybody believed that they, as a behavior, they wouldn't pull out cell phones in the middle of a meeting like this. And lo and behold, in one of the meetings we had, somebody pulled out a cell phone, and I just called it out. I said, hey, I see a cell phone being used. Is that okay with you guys? It's called What, So What, Now What? And I said, I called the attention to the what. I said, now what? So what? Does this matter to you? And they all agreed that they should put the phones away, and we had no more interruptions during that period of time. Ground rules are very important. We formulate in the end, it's a team charter. I'm sorry I don't have an example here, but it's a one piece of paper that lists what the name of the team, the company, what's the mission statement for this executive team, what a set of values for this team, and so forth and so on. What are the behaviors, and we list those up. And then we look at what are the objectives for the team. What does the team want to be at the end of the year? This is all in a document. Usually it's a front and back page. It oftentimes has the logo on it. And it's kind of nice, but every time we have a meeting, we pull this out and say, how are we doing on this before we step off into different areas? How are we doing on the plan? We typically meet monthly for the first 6 months, and then every couple of months, and then every quarter. No less than once a quarter. If you're going to do this and do it right, you got to keep it in front of people. And people don't get things done unless it's on the calendar, unless they're paying money for it, unless there's an outsider involved. That's just the way it is. Here are some of the things that we do in the team launch. I just want to show you a list of vision statement. What's the big aspiration for the future? Mission statement. What's the purpose of the team members? Who's on it? What roles they have, and so forth. Working agreements, interdependent goals, measures of successes. This measures of successes is pretty important. At the very end of the process here, we're going to want to evaluate the team, and that's one of there are three main areas that you can assess teams that this research has determined, and one of them is, are you meeting your own goals? That's just one of them. I'll tell you the other two in just a minute. Individual coaching, as people need support going along, what we do is we either do it myself sometimes, or I bring in other people. Typically, I like to work with the CEO, and then bring in other coaches to do some of the other folks. But when we see an issue, that's when we like to bring in other coaches. If somebody needs a little help here and there, we'll bring in other people. And that's a separate contract, if you will. If you're a coach and you're thinking about doing this, that's a separate contract from this one that we're doing right now. Leading coaching the team leader is absolutely essential. Without that, you really don't have a game here. If he's not going to be involved, don't even bother doing this. Again, having coaching for the individuals is important, and especially if people get stuck. And I also in my meetings, one of the things we do, it's not the first meeting, but it's probably one of the first 3 or 4. We actually teach all the team members how to coach. I do a 3-hour block on what coaching is all about based on one of the books I did called Leading Well, and we teach them what I call the coach approach. How do you use coaching as a management tool, as a management process? And we teach everybody that, and we try to then instill peer coaching so that instead of hiring an outside coach, which can save them money, they can actually do peer coaching from within. That does 2 things: saves them money, and secondly, teaches them how to coach and be coached. Here's ongoing team coaching. It's the external coaches is a part of the team. The team provides regular observations about the team leader. I do 360s involved in that. We try to model the best behavior, and the team coach. The team coach is the kind of monitor this whole process. His job or her job is to make sure that people are making progress to the goals that they say they want to make progress to. The way we do that is to teach people a decision-making processes. I teach them action learning as a part of this whole process. And if you know anything about action learning, it's about asking questions. It's like coaching for teams. It's how do you ask the right questions to get the team to the right place, and rather than giving directions, the coach forces questions to be asked that move people toward what's the problem, what's the extent of the problem, what's the ideal state or the best possible future state, and then where do you plan to go from there? What's the plan going forward? I talked briefly about team performance. Team performance is, according to this research, and I found it to be true so far on the teams that I've worked with, has to meet 3 different criteria. Number 1, quality results. Did the team produce the product or services that they were supposed to produce? And this goes back to that metrics thing, that slide, a couple of slides before, where we said, we try to define in the launch meeting what would it look like if you hit a home run, sort of thing. What would a good look like or a great look like at the end of the year? So you have to really be you have to be as careful and accurate as you possibly can, because you don't want to set crazy goals that you never meet. Or on the other hand, you don't want to make such easy goals that you're not even breaking a sweat. So you've really got to calibrate that. But once you've done that, you get better and better at this thing. That's the first criteria for success of a high-functioning team. The second is team capabilities. Did the team improve over time? Did it get better in performing? Did the team members think the team got better as the process went on? I just did this with the team, and I had them rate themselves 1 through 5. I had them do it independently and to see if there was directional movement. This particular team, out of 5, viewed themselves as 3.7 or 8, which is pretty high for the first quarter we've ever done it. Anything over 2 directionally, +2 as opposed to -2, is good. They were at 3.6. I thought that was a pretty reputable ranking. And then individual game engagement. If each member can answer yes to this question, I believe that my team has supported my individual growth and well-being. Then that means that they're benefiting by being on the team. So those 3 things: are you getting the results that you predicted you would get? And these are hard-nosed results. These are percentages, dollars, etc. Secondly, is the team better off because of its members? And if not, why not? And individual engagement. Am I individually engaged and supported? Those are the 3 criteria, the 3 known criteria that will separate great teams from either good or fair teams. If this was of value to you, give me a call, send me an email. I'm happy to give you some information and background on this as best I can. If you're a company and you want a demonstration or a meeting, we'll send. I'll come out usually, or bring some folks with us, and we can show you how this works. Here's the sources here. We hope that I hope that this was of value to you. I just wanted to articulate it so that I could get it out there. And if you need more, we're going to be maybe holding some webinars on this in the near future. And so keep a look at our site. And again, here's the contact information. Give me a call whenever you need. Thanks so much, and we wish you luck in this process, and hope to talk to you soon. Take care.